5 years after the Council's historic vote, the galaxy was a different place. The Pioneer program had achieved breakthroughs that would have seemed impossible just 10 years earlier. Human crews worked alongside alien scientists. Each learned from the other's views and abilities. Dr. Alan Porter stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Pathfinder. He watched as they approached the edge of the Omega Rift. This was a region of space that had been declared off-limits for 200,000 years. The rift was a place where normal physics stopped working. Ships disappeared there. Sensors went crazy. The Council had long ago decided it was too dangerous to investigate. But that was before humans asked the question that changed everything. What if we tried anyway? Dr. Porter, we are receiving information from the probe you sent through the rift, reported Lieutenant Commander Jake Newman. He had left his job as an expedition pilot to join the Pioneer program. You are not going to believe this. The data appeared on the main display. Alan felt his breath catch in his throat. Beyond the chaos of the rift lay a stable region of space. It contained what appeared to be hundreds of livable worlds. They were completely unexplored and untouched. More than that, the energy readings suggested the presence of technology far more advanced than anything in the current galactic database. Could it be another Viridian site? Asked Dr. Lisa Murphy. She had also joined the Pathfinder crew. If it is, Alan replied, it is bigger than anything we have ever found. We need to report this to the Council. Within hours, the discovery had sent ripples through the galactic community. A joint Council human task force was put together to plan the first expedition through the rift. The mission would be dangerous, potentially deadly, and absolutely essential. Admiral Nicole Grant, now promoted and placed in command of humanity's exploration fleet, led the mission briefing at the Galactic Council Station. Around the holographic table sat representatives from 15 different species. All were volunteers for the expedition. We do not know what we will find on the other side of the rift, Nicole explained. The region could contain anything from abandoned ruins to living civilizations. Our mission is to explore, make peaceful contact if possible, and return with data that can expand our understanding of the galaxy. Counselor Mora, now serving as the Telnari representative on the Pioneer Program's Management Committee, asked the question on everyone's mind. Admiral Grant, the rift has claimed the lives of hundreds of explorers over thousands of years. What makes you believe this expedition will succeed where others have failed? Nicole smiled. Because we are not going in blind like our predecessors. We have better technology, yes, but more importantly, we have something they did not have. We have diversity. She gestured to the assembled team. This crew includes Zentaran mathematicians who can calculate the rift's changes. We have Kalthori engineers who can adapt our shields in real time. We have Telnari biologists who can identify life in forms we might not recognize. And yes, we have human pilots who can fly through chaos and come out the other side. Separately, each of us would fail. Together, we might just succeed. The expedition launched 3 weeks later. The fleet consisted of 5 ships. Each carried a mixed crew of humans and aliens. Admiral Grant commanded from the lead ship, now called the Horizon. As they approached the rift, the ship's sensors went wild with conflicting data. The fabric of space-time itself seemed to twist and fold. It created pockets of accelerated time. It created regions of reversed gravity. It created zones where matter and energy behaved in ways that defied normal physics. This is why previous expeditions failed, observed the ship's Zentaran science officer. Kren, they tried to navigate using fixed references, but the rift is not random. It is dynamic. We must adapt. Can you plot a course? Nicole asked. Not alone, Kren admitted. But with human intuition combined with Zentaran mathematics, he trailed off. His crystalline face reflected the swirling data. It might work. What followed was a demonstration of cooperation that would become famous in galactic history. Kren and the human navigation team worked together. The Zentaran calculated probability fields while the humans made split-second decisions based on pattern recognition and instinct. The Kalthori engineers kept the shields changing at frequencies that matched the rift's changes. The Telnari crew managed life support systems with calm precision that kept everyone focused. After 6 hours of intense navigation, the Horizon emerged from the rift into clear space. Behind them, the other 4 ships followed. All were intact. Status report, Nicole commanded. All systems working, replied the engineering chief, a Kalthori named Thez. Minor hull stress, but nothing serious. We made it, Admiral. The view screen activated, showing the region beyond the rift. It was more spectacular than the probe data had suggested. Thousands of stars glittered in dense clusters. Sensors detected at least 300 livable worlds in immediate scanning range. "I am detecting artificial structures," Lisa Murphy reported from her station. "They are everywhere." This entire region was inhabited at some point. As they explored the sector over the following weeks, they discovered something amazing. The region beyond the rift had been a safe place created by the Viridians themselves. Not just for their own species, but for dozens of others they had tried to preserve when they knew their civilization was ending. In a central facility orbiting a blue giant star, they found the Viridian Archive. It was a vast library containing the collected knowledge of hundreds of extinct species. And at the heart of the archive, they found another prophecy. This one was dated to just before the Viridian disappearance. Dr. Porter was the one who translated it. His voice shook as he read the ancient text to the assembled crew. They knew their civilization was ending. They could not save themselves, but they tried to save their knowledge for whoever would come after. And this final prophecy, it is addressed to us, he continued reading. "To those who find this place, you have proven yourselves worthy of the stars. Whether you are the humans we saw in our visions or some other species that has learned the lessons they teach, you have shown the key trait of true explorers, the courage to hope when reason says to give up. Take this knowledge as our gift. Build something better than we could, and remember that the galaxy does not belong to any one species. It belongs to those brave enough to explore it together." Nicole looked around at her crew. She saw humans and aliens working side by side. She understood the true meaning of the Viridian prophecy. Humanity had not been meant to conquer the galaxy or replace the existing order. They had been the spark needed to wake the galaxy up. They reminded the ancient species of their own forgotten courage. 6 months later, the Pioneer program's discoveries were being added to the galactic database. New exploration projects were being launched by species that had not ventured beyond their borders in thousands of years. The Kalthori were designing next-generation starships. The Telnari were establishing colonies in previously impossible locations. Even the Vrin, humanity's harshest critics, had reluctantly joined an expedition to map the galactic core. Ambassador Claire Donovan stood before the Galactic Council one final time before her retirement. She delivered a speech that would be studied by diplomats for generations to come. 5 years ago, we stood in this chamber and debated whether humanity was a threat to be contained. Today, we stand as proof that the threat was never humans specifically. It was stagnation. It was comfort. It was the slow death of curiosity and courage. She smiled, looking at the faces of representatives from scores of species. The Viridian prophecy warned you about humans, but I think they were really warning you about yourselves, about what you would lose if you did not remember how to dream. We did not bring change to the galaxy. We just reminded you that change was possible. High Counselor Zephos, now in the final years of his impossibly long life, rose to respond. Ambassador Donovan, your species has indeed changed us. But perhaps the greatest change is this. We are no longer afraid. The Age of Empires has ended, as the prophecy said, but in its place we have built something better. An age of explorers, an age of cooperation, an age of hope. He turned to address the full council. The prophecy spoke of humans remaking the galaxy, and they have, but not through conquest or force. They remade it by showing us that we could remake ourselves. That evening, as humanity's delegation prepared to return to Earth, Admiral Nicole Grant and Ambassador Claire Donovan stood together on the observation deck of the transport ship. They watched the council station shrink into the distance. "Do you think we lived up to the prophecy?" Nicole asked. Claire considered the question. The prophecy said humans would shake the foundations of the galactic order. "I would say we did that, but we also proved that shaking foundations does not have to mean tearing things down. Sometimes it means waking people up." "To a new age," Nicole said. "To the age we will build together," Claire replied, as their ship entered the warp tunnel that would carry them home. Behind them, the galaxy was already changing. New expeditions were launching. Old barriers were being crossed. Species that had barely spoken to each other for thousands of years were working together on projects that would have seemed impossible just years earlier. The rescue at Serenity Falls sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. For weeks, the council chambers buzzed with heated debate. The human delegation, now led by Ambassador Claire Donovan with Captain Nicole Grant as a special advisor, found themselves at the center of a political storm that would determine humanity's future among the stars. High Counselor Xephos called an extraordinary session of the full council. This was the first time in 3 centuries that every member species was required to send their highest-ranking representatives. The agenda was simple but profound. What should be done about humanity? Claire stood in the human delegation area, watching as the chamber filled with hundreds of alien representatives. Beside her, Nicole wore her dress uniform. The medals from her rescue mission gleamed on her chest. The captain had been reluctant to accept them. She insisted her crew deserved the recognition. But Claire had convinced her that sometimes symbols mattered more than personal comfort. "Are you ready for this?" Claire asked quietly. Nicole shrugged. "I flew a dying ship through deadly radiation to save people I had never met. I think I can handle some politics." Claire smiled despite her nervousness. That was the human spirit in a nutshell. Face the impossible with humor and determination. Xephos called the session to order. "Honored representatives, we gather to address a question that has divided this council since humans first achieved faster-than-light travel. The Viridian prophecy warned us that humanity would bring change to the galactic order. The events at Serenity Falls have shown the nature of that change. Now we must decide how to respond." Counselor Vreth, the Vrin who had been one of humanity's harshest critics, was the first to speak. "The humans have proven they are as dangerous as we feared. They risked not only their own lives but violated every established safety rule. They could have triggered a disaster that destroyed their ship and killed the very people they tried to save. But they did not," countered Counselor Mora of the Telnari. The peaceful species representative stood with unusual firmness. "They saved 173,000 of my people when we had accepted death. They showed us that acceptance is not wisdom, and that giving in to fate is not the same as finding peace." A new voice joined the debate. Counselor Drath, a member of the reclusive Eldari species, activated his communication device. The Eldari rarely spoke in council sessions. They preferred to watch and record. When they did speak, everyone listened. "I am old," Drath said. His translated voice carried weight. "I have lived for 14,000 of your years. I have seen species rise and fall. I have seen empires bloom and die, and I tell you this. The galaxy is dying." A shocked silence fell over the chamber. Claire exchanged glances with Nicole. This was not what they had expected. Drath continued. "We have achieved stability, yes. We have ended war, reduced suffering, and created a civilization that spans millions of worlds. But we have also ended risk. We have stopped growing. We have stopped reaching. For 300,000 years, the galactic community has kept the same boundaries, explored the same regions, and asked the same questions. We are not a civilization anymore. We are a museum." He turned his ancient gaze to the human delegation. Then came the humans. They are young, reckless, and they refuse to accept our comfortable stagnation. They look at the barriers we have built and ask why. When we say something cannot be done, they try it anyway. They are frustrating, dangerous, and exactly what we need. Vreth's jaws clicked with agitation. "You would have us accept chaos? Risk the stability we have spent thousands of years building?" "I would have us live again," Drath replied simply. The Viridian prophecy spoke of a time of change. We have understood this as a warning, but perhaps it was a promise. Claire saw her opportunity and stepped forward. "Honored counselors, may I speak?" Xephos gestured his approval. "I understand your concerns about humanity," Claire began. "We are young. We are aggressive by your standards. We take risks that seem irrational to species whose worlds have not forced them to fight for survival. But let me ask you this. Why did your ancestors reach for the stars?" She activated a holographic display showing the histories of the Council's founding species. The Zenterans developed space travel to escape running out of resources on their homeworld. The Kalthori built their first ships to flee a dying sun. The Telnari left their planet to escape a plague that threatened to kill them all. Every species in this chamber began their journey to the stars because they refused to accept defeat. You were human once, in spirit if not in form. Counselor Mora nodded slowly. The ambassador makes a valid point. We have forgotten our own struggles. Claire pressed her advantage. The Viridian prophecy says that humans will remake the galaxy. But it does not say we will do it alone. We are not here to dominate or conquer. We are here to remind you of what you once were. To inspire you to reach again, to dare again, to hope again. Nicole stepped forward to join Claire. When my crew and I flew into that radiation storm, we did not think we were heroes. We thought we were doing what was necessary. That is what humans do. We see a problem and we try to fix it. We see someone in danger and we help them, not because we are better than anyone else, but because we cannot imagine doing anything else. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from dozens of species. You are afraid that humans will disrupt your peace. And you are right, we will, because your peace has become stagnation. You have created a galaxy where nothing changes, nothing grows, and nothing truly lives. If that is the price of stability, then maybe it is time for some instability. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some counselors voiced angry objections while others nodded in thoughtful agreement. Claire watched the debate unfold and realized that something fundamental had shifted. They were no longer arguing about whether to contain humanity. They were arguing about what kind of galaxy they wanted to live in. After hours of deliberation, Zephos called for order. This council must make a decision. All those in favor of putting restrictions on human expansion and activity, signal your vote. Claire held her breath as the votes appeared on the holographic tally. 12 species voted in favor. A year ago, it would have been unanimous. All those opposed to restrictions, signal your vote. The opposing votes appeared. 28 species, including the Telnari and the ancient Eldari. The measure fails, Zephos announced. Humanity will remain an unrestricted member of the galactic community. But the Zentaran was not finished. However, I propose something different. I propose that we establish a joint human council program to explore regions of space we have declared too dangerous. To investigate things we have said are impossible. To ask the questions we have been too cautious to ask. Counselor Drath's communication device glowed with approval. I second this proposal. Let the humans remind us how to be explorers again. The vote was overwhelming. 39 species in favor, 8 abstaining, and only Vreth and a few others opposed. As the session concluded, Claire felt Nicole's hand on her shoulder. Did we just win? The captain asked. No, Claire replied with a smile. We just changed the game. Later that evening, Claire and Nicole shared a quiet drink in the embassy's observation lounge. They watched the stars and thought about what they had achieved. The Viridian prophecy said humans would bring a time of change. Nicole said thoughtfully, I guess they were right. But they were wrong about one thing, Claire said. They thought we would do it alone. They did not realize that once we showed the other species what was possible, they would want to join us. Nicole raised her glass. To change, then. May it be constructive. To hope, Claire countered. May it be contagious, their glasses clinked softly. Below them, the vast machinery of the Galactic Council continued its work, now guided by a new vision of what the future could be. The Joint Exploration Program was officially named the Pioneer Program. Within weeks, dozens of species volunteered to participate. Ships were designed that combined human engineering with alien technology. Crews were assembled that mixed different species, each bringing their own strengths and perspectives. The Council approved funding for 10 major exploration missions in the first year alone. These were missions to places that had been deemed too dangerous or too difficult. Black hole studies that required getting closer than any ship had dared. Nebula exploration that pushed sensor technology to its limits. Ancient ruin excavations on worlds with hostile environments. Each mission would have been impossible for any single species. But together, combining human determination with alien expertise, they became possible. Claire watched from the embassy as the first Pioneer Program ships launched. She felt pride mixed with hope. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had not forced anyone to change. Instead, they had simply shown what was possible when you refused to accept limitations. And the galaxy was responding, not with fear or resentment, but with excitement. For the first time in thousands of years, the galactic community was looking forward instead of backward. They were asking what they could do instead of accepting what they could not do. The age of stagnation was ending. The age of exploration was beginning, and humanity had lit the spark that started it all. Nicole joined Claire at the window. 3 months after the council meeting, humanity faced its biggest test. The emergency call came from a Telnari colony called Serenity Falls. The settlement had 200,000 civilians living on the edge of the Helios Nebula. Their sun was dying, and it had just released an unexpected solar flare. The flare triggered a complete failure in the colony's magnetic shields. Without those shields, deadly radiation would kill everyone within 48 hours. Captain Nicole Grant stood on the bridge of the Commonwealth ship Ranger. She looked at the tactical display with her senior officers. Her first officer, Lieutenant Commander Paul Chen, shook his head with a grim expression. The radiation levels are extremely high, Captain. The Telnari emergency services cannot get close enough to evacuate. Their ships were not designed to handle this kind of exposure. What about the Council's response? Nicole asked. They are putting together a task force, replied Lieutenant Sam Hayes, the communications officer. But it will take 5 days to gather the necessary protected ships and reach the colony. The Telnari will be dead in 2 days. Nicole studied the star map. Her jaw was set with determination. The Ranger was only 6 hours away from Serenity Falls at maximum speed. They were a research ship, not a military vessel, but they had been built to work in dangerous environments. What is our ship's radiation tolerance? Paul's eyes widened with concern. Captain, we are rated for up to 10,000 rads per hour for short periods. The readings near Serenity Falls show 30,000 rads per hour and climbing. We could maybe survive long enough to evacuate a few hundred people before our systems fail. A few hundred is better than none, Nicole said. She activated the ship-wide intercom. All crew members, this is the captain. We have received a distress call from Serenity Falls. 200,000 Telnari civilians are about to die from radiation exposure. The Council cannot reach them in time. We can. She paused to let that information sink in. I will not order any of you into this situation. This is a volunteer mission. We will likely suffer severe damage to the ship. We may not survive, but those colonists will die without our help. Anyone who wishes to leave may take the escape shuttles to the nearest safe station. You have 10 minutes to decide. 10 minutes later, not a single crew member had left their station. Nicole felt pride surge through her as she gave the order. Helm, set course for Serenity Falls, maximum speed. All crew prepare for extreme radiation exposure. Send all available power to shields and life support. The journey took 5 hours and 42 minutes. As they came out of warp speed near the Telnari colony, the ship's alarms immediately started blaring. The bridge crew watched their radiation counters climb into the danger zone. Shields holding at 70%, reported the tactical officer, Lieutenant Grace Martinez. But they are breaking down faster than we predicted. Nicole opened a channel to the colony. Serenity Falls, this is Captain Grant of the Commonwealth Ship Ranger. We are here to evacuate as many of you as possible. Prepare all civilians for emergency transport. The response came from Governor Talara, the Telnari administrator. Her voice was filled with disbelief. Captain Grant, your ship cannot survive in these conditions. The Council told us that rescue was impossible until they could gather proper equipment. The Council was being careful, Nicole replied. Humans are not known for being careful. Get ready for transport. What followed was 6 hours of the most intense rescue operation in human spaceflight history. The Ranger held position above the colony while transporters ran continuously. They beamed groups of Telnari civilians directly to the ship's cargo bays. The engineering team, led by Chief Engineer Linda Shaw, performed miracles keeping the shields working as they broke down under the radiation attack. Captain, we are at 55% shield strength, Grace reported. Hull integrity is starting to fail on decks 4 through 7. How many have we evacuated? Nicole asked. 42,000, Sam replied. But our transporters are overheating. We need to shut them down or they will fail completely. Nicole did the math in her head. 42,000 saved, but 158,000 still on the surface. No, keep the transporters running. Take all non-essential power, including life support, to empty sections. Paul gripped his console as the ship shook from a radiation surge. Captain, at this rate, we will lose shields completely in 2 hours. If we do not pull out now, we will not be able to escape the radiation zone. Then we have 2 hours to save as many as we can, Nicole said calmly. Continue evacuation. The next 90 minutes were chaos under control. The crew worked with desperate efficiency. They pushed themselves and their equipment beyond all safety limits. Linda's engineering team bypassed failing systems. They rerouted power through damaged wiring. They literally held pieces of the ship together with emergency patches and pure determination. When the shields finally collapsed completely, the Ranger had evacuated 133,000 Telnari civilians. Nicole made the hardest decision of her life and ordered the retreat. As the ship limped away from Serenity Falls at reduced speed, the remaining colonists faced their fate with the peaceful acceptance that was natural to their species. But something unexpected happened. The Council's task force, still 3 days away, received detailed information from the Ranger showing exactly how the evacuation had been done. Inspired by what the human crew had accomplished, 3 Kalthori merchant ships changed their routes and rushed to Serenity Falls. They used the techniques shown by the Ranger to push their own ships beyond design limits. They saved another 40,000 Telnari before their ships had to withdraw. In the end, 173,000 of the 200,000 colonists survived. It was not complete success by human standards, but to the rest of the galaxy, it was a miracle. Captain Nicole Grant stood on her damaged bridge. Her uniform was torn and her face was marked with exhaustion and minor radiation burns. The medical team had already given anti-radiation treatments to the crew. The doctors said everyone would recover. The ship would need months of repairs, but they had survived. "Captain," Sam said quietly, "we are receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. It is High Counselor Zephos." The holographic image of the Zentaran appeared above the main screen. For a long moment he simply looked at Nicole and her crew. When he spoke, his voice was filled with emotion that the translation system struggled to express. "Captain Grant, what you and your crew accomplished today should have been impossible. You suffered damage that would have destroyed most ships. You pushed your vessel and yourselves beyond all rational limits. You refused to accept that those people could not be saved." He paused. "You frightened us by proving the Viridian prophecy correct. But you also showed us something we had forgotten. You showed us what it means to hope." Nicole straightened despite her exhaustion. "With respect, Counselor, we did what anyone should have done. We helped people who needed help. That," Zephos replied, "is what makes you human, and perhaps what the galaxy has needed for a very long time." The news of the Rangers' rescue spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had viewed humanity with suspicion began to see them differently. The Telnari, whose people had been saved, became humanity's strongest supporters on the Council. Even the Vrin, who had been humanity's harshest critics, could not deny what had been accomplished. But more importantly, something shifted in the galactic consciousness. For the first time in thousands of years, other species began to question their own limitations. If humans could push past the impossible, why couldn't they? If a crew of 200 could save thousands by refusing to give up, what could entire civilizations accomplish if they tried? The Kalthori merchants who had followed the Rangers' example became heroes to their own people. Their willingness to risk everything to help others inspired a whole generation of young Kalthori to join exploration and rescue services. Similar movements began on other worlds. The comfortable, safe galaxy was starting to wake up. Nicole sat in her quarters that night looking at the list of crew members who had been injured during the rescue. None of the injuries were life-threatening, but many crew members would need weeks of recovery. She thought about the 27,000 Telnari they had not been able to save. That number would haunt her for the rest of her life. But she also thought about the 173,000 who were alive, because her crew had refused to accept the impossible. She thought about the Kalthori merchants who had been inspired to help. She thought about all the people across the galaxy who were hearing about the rescue and wondering what they themselves might be capable of. Paul came to her quarters with 2 cups of coffee. He sat down across from her without saying anything. They drank in comfortable silence for a few minutes. "Did we do the right thing?" Nicole finally asked. "We nearly got everyone killed. If the shields had failed 5 minutes earlier, we would have lost the whole ship." Paul considered the question. The Telnari have a saying. It translates roughly to, "A life saved is worth more than a life preserved." I think they mean that actually helping someone even at great risk is more valuable than just keeping yourself safe. We could have stayed away and preserved our own lives. Instead, we helped. The Galactic Council chamber was huge. It floated in space around an ancient star called Zentara Prime. This massive building had been the center of galactic government for 300,000 years. Ambassador Claire Donovan stood in the waiting area for human delegates. She looked over her notes for what she thought would be a normal diplomatic meeting. Then came the emergency summons. "Ambassador, they are ready for you," said Kevin Ross. He was Claire's assistant, a young diplomat fresh from training. His nervousness showed in the way he kept fixing his collar. Claire smoothed down her formal uniform and walked into the council chamber with confidence. The huge circular room was filled with representatives from 47 different species. Each sat in special pods designed for their specific needs. The Kalthors breathed methane gas and floated in their amber-lit spheres. The Grenthi were made of silicon and shifted slowly on heated platforms. The Vrin looked like insects and clicked in their cool, dark containers. At the center of the chamber stood High Counselor Xephos. He was a Zenteran. His species had led the council longer than human civilization had existed. His crystalline body broke light into rainbow patterns as he turned to face Claire. "Ambassador Donovan," Xephos said. His words came through a device that translated his thoughts into any language. "Thank you for coming quickly. A matter of great importance has come to our attention." Claire took her place at the human delegation's platform. The human commonwealth is ready to help the council with any concerns. What happened next surprised her completely. Instead of talking about trade or territory, Xephos showed a holographic display of the Viridian prophecy discovered on Kepler 442b. Claire had received the secret report from Dr. Porter's team 3 weeks ago. Earth Command had decided to keep it private until they understood what it meant. Apparently, that decision had just been overruled. "This prophecy has been known to many elder species for thousands of years," Xephos explained. "It is the reason why when your world first showed signs of technology 500 years ago, there was big debate about whether to contact you at all." A murmur ran through the council chamber. Claire used her diplomatic training to keep her face calm even though her mind was racing. The human commonwealth did not know that the council had prior knowledge of our species before first contact. "The official records say we were discovered only after we achieved faster-than-light travel." "The official records," interrupted Counselor Vreth, a Vryn whose jaws clicked with worry, "were carefully changed to avoid causing panic. We have watched your species for centuries, Ambassador. We have seen your wars, your cruelty, your strange ability to survive disasters that would have destroyed any other species." Another counselor spoke up. This was Mora of the Telnari. Her species was known for being peaceful. "We mean no disrespect, Ambassador Donovan, but your species frightens us. You come from a world where survival meant constant struggle. Your evolution was shaped by hunting, competition, and extinction events. You are, by our standards, impossibly aggressive and tough." Claire took a deep breath. "With respect, Counselor Mora, humanity has been a peaceful member of the galactic community for 50 years. We have honored every treaty. We have helped with science. We have given aid to dozens of worlds. Our past does not define our future. But it does define your nature," Xephos said quietly. "Let me show you." The holographic display changed to show historical records. Claire recognized them as situations where human exploration teams had problems in space. One showed the crew of the starship Odyssey. They were stuck in a dangerous radiation zone with failing life support. They used spare parts and creativity to build a radiation shield that no engineer thought was possible. Another showed the colony ship Aurora. It was caught in an asteroid storm that should have destroyed them. Instead, they did a dangerous move through the debris that broke every safety rule but saved all 3,000 colonists. "You see," Xephos continued, "what you call creativity and determination, we call something else. We call it Death World madness, the refusal to accept reality, the willingness to try the impossible rather than accept defeat." Kevin, standing behind Claire, whispered urgently, "Ambassador, they are building a case. This is not a conversation. It is a trial." Xephos heard the comment with his sharp hearing. "Not a trial, young diplomat. An acknowledgement. The Viridian prophecy has come true. Humanity has reached the stars and the galaxy is changing because of it." The council chamber erupted in noise. Each species voiced their concerns, their fears, their demands. Some called for limits on human expansion. Others suggested putting observers on all human worlds. A few of the more aggressive species even suggested containment protocols. Claire felt anger rising in her chest, but she forced it down. This was exactly the kind of moment that needed restraint. "Honorable counselors," she said loudly enough to cut through the noise, "I understand your concerns, but let me offer a different view. Yes, humanity comes from a harsh world. Yes, our history is marked by struggle. But those same traits that frighten you are the traits that make us explore, discover, and help others. Every rescue mission in dangerous space has been led by human volunteers. Every science breakthrough in the last 50 years has involved human researchers willing to take risks that others would not." Mora leaned forward in her pod. "And that is exactly what worries us, Ambassador. You do not fear death the way we do. You do not respect danger the way we do. You push limits that should not be pushed." "Because those limits were meant to be pushed," Claire replied firmly. "The galaxy has been stable for so long that you have forgotten what progress looks like. You have created a civilization of maintenance, not discovery. And now you see humanity doing what your ancestors once did, and it terrifies you because you have grown comfortable. The chamber fell silent. Zephyr studied Claire for a long moment. His crystalline face was hard to read. Perhaps you are right, Ambassador. Perhaps we have grown too comfortable. But understand this. The Viridian prophecy does not end with humanity's arrival in the stars. It speaks of a time of change, where the old order falls and something new takes its place. We are not afraid of you, Ambassador Donovan. We are afraid of what comes next. Claire felt the weight of those words. The other species were not just worried about humans starting wars or taking over territory. They were worried about something deeper. They were worried that humanity's very presence would make them uncomfortable with their own safe, predictable existence. They were worried that humans would ask questions they had stopped asking. That humans would take risks they had decided were not worth taking. That humans would remind them of what they used to be before they chose comfort over growth. As the session continued, Claire realized something important. The council was divided. Some species genuinely feared humanity and wanted restrictions, but others, especially the older species like the Eldari, seemed almost hopeful. It was as if they had been waiting for something to shake up the galactic order. They had been waiting for someone to remind them why they had reached for the stars in the first place. After hours of debate, Zephos finally called for a vote on implementing restrictions on human activity. Claire held her breath as the votes appeared on the holographic display. It was closer than she expected, but the motion failed. Humanity would remain an unrestricted member of the galactic community. But Claire knew this was not the end. It was just the beginning. The council had revealed that they had been watching humanity for centuries. They had known about the prophecy all along. They had been afraid of this moment since before humans even knew aliens existed. As Claire left the council chamber that day, Kevin walked beside her. "What do we do now?" he asked. Claire looked out at the stars through the massive windows. "Now we prove them right about one thing and wrong about another. We prove that yes, we will change the galaxy, but we will change it for the better. We will show them that Death World madness, as they call it, is actually just hope, the refusal to give up, the belief that tomorrow can be better than today. And if they try to stop us," Kevin asked. "Then we do what humans always do," Claire said with a slight smile. "We find a way forward anyway. Not through war or force, but through showing them what is possible when you refuse to accept that something cannot be done." That night, Claire sent a long report back to Earth. She explained everything that had happened in the council. She explained about the prophecy and how the other species had been watching humanity for centuries. She explained about the fear and the division among the council members. But she also included her own thoughts. The galaxy had been stable for so long that it had stopped growing. The other species had achieved peace and comfort, but they had lost something important in the process. They had lost their drive to explore, to discover, to push boundaries. They had become content with what they had instead of dreaming about what they could have. Humanity could give that back to them, not by force or conquest, but by example, by showing them that it was okay to take risks, that it was okay to fail and try again, that it was okay to dream big and work hard to make those dreams real. The Viridian prophecy said humans would remake the galaxy. Claire was starting to understand what that really meant. The dust on Kepler 442b was red like rust. It covered everything on the dead planet. Dr. Alan Porter brushed away the dust from a strange object buried in the ground. His gloved hands moved slowly and carefully. He had been digging on this alien world for 3 months now. His team had found many old things from a civilization that died long ago. Alan was a scientist who studied ancient alien cultures. He loved his work. Every day brought new discoveries. But today felt different. The object he was uncovering looked like it was made of crystal. It was still glowing faintly after sitting here for thousands of years. "Alan, come here right now," Dr. Lisa Murphy called out from across the ancient plaza. Her voice sounded urgent and excited. Lisa was the team's language expert. She could read and translate alien writing better than anyone Alan knew. Alan stood up and walked across the old city square. His boots made crunching sounds on the broken pieces of what might have been glass or stone. Lisa stood in front of a massive wall. The wall was covered with strange symbols and letters. Her scanning device projected a 3-dimensional map of all the writing. "I have been working on translating this language for 3 weeks," Lisa said. Her eyes never moved from the wall. "This language belongs to the Viridian Collective. They were one of the first species to form the Galactic Council. That was 500,000 years ago. Alan felt his heart beat faster. The Viridian Collective was famous among people who studied ancient aliens. They had supposedly recorded information about every intelligent species in the galaxy. Then they disappeared without explanation. Finding real Viridian ruins was like finding treasure. It was the discovery of a lifetime. "What does the writing say?" Alan asked. Lisa's fingers moved quickly across her tablet computer. She was adjusting the translation program. "This is not a history book or a technical manual. It is a warning." She paused. Her face looked pale even in the red light from the alien sun. "It is a prophecy." The translation started to appear on Alan's heads-up display. The words flowed across his vision in neat lines. He read quietly. His breathing became difficult as he understood what the words meant. The prophecy talked about a species that would come from a world of violence and competition. Natural selection had made them stronger than any other species in the galaxy. This species would refuse to accept limits. They would adapt and overcome every problem. They would shake the foundations of the galactic order. "There is more," Lisa said. She scrolled to the next section. "It describes what they are like. They never give up even when it makes no sense. They create new things because they have to survive. They can live in places that would kill other species. And most important, the Viridians called it the madness of hope. These beings refuse to surrender even when they cannot win." Alan felt cold as he read the final line of the prophecy. It was a warning to all species in the galaxy. It was written in the ancient Viridian language. "When the children of the Death World find the stars, the Age of Empires will end. They will remake the galaxy in their image, not through war, but through their very nature. They are called humans." Behind them, Jake Newman had stopped working to listen. Jake was the team's pilot. "That is us," he said quietly. "They are talking about us," Lisa nodded. She looked troubled. The date markers in the text say this was written about 62,000 years ago. Long before humans even learned to farm, the Viridians somehow knew we would reach the stars. And they were afraid. Alan stared at the ancient wall. He tried to understand what this meant. If this prophecy exists here, it might exist in other places. Other alien species might know about it. Which means, Lisa said slowly, that humanity's arrival in space might not be welcomed by everyone. "We need to send this information back to Earth Command right away." The twin moons of Kepler 442b rose over the horizon. They cast long shadows across the dead city. Alan Porter could not shake a bad feeling. Their discovery had just changed everything. Humanity had spent the last 50 years exploring space. They had made contact with dozens of alien species. Slowly, humans had been joining the vast community of galactic civilization. Everyone had assumed humans were special because of their intelligence or their technology. But the Viridian prophecy suggested something different and unsettling. Humanity was unique not because of what they had achieved. They were unique because of what they had survived. Earth, with its ice ages and mass extinctions, its predators and diseases and natural disasters, had created a species that the gentle, stable worlds of the galaxy could barely understand. Earth was what the aliens called a death world. Most planets in the galaxy were calm and peaceful. Life evolved slowly and safely. But Earth was different. Earth was violent and dangerous. To survive on Earth, species had to be tough and smart and adaptable. They had to fight every day just to stay alive. This harsh environment had shaped humanity in ways that made other aliens uncomfortable. Humans did not give up easily. When faced with impossible problems, they kept trying. When told something could not be done, they tried to do it anyway. This attitude seemed crazy to species from peaceful worlds, and now that species had reached the stars. Alan looked at his team members. They were all thinking the same thing. For 50 years, humanity had believed they were joining the galactic community as equals. They had assumed the other species welcomed them. But what if that was not true? What if the other species had known about the prophecy all along? What if they had been watching humanity with fear instead of friendship? Jake spoke up again. "Should we be worried? I mean, we have been good neighbors. We have not started any wars. We have helped other species with their problems." Lisa considered his question. "That is true. But the prophecy says we will remake the galaxy through our nature. Maybe the other species are not worried about what we will do on purpose. Maybe they are worried about what we will do without meaning to. We cannot help being human. We cannot help seeing problems and wanting to fix them. We cannot help being human. We cannot help seeing problems and wanting to fix them. We cannot help being human. We cannot help seeing problems and wanting to fix them. We cannot help being human. We cannot help seeing problems and wanting to fix them. We cannot help being human. We cannot help seeing problems and wanting to fix them. We cannot help being human. We cannot help seeing problems and wanting to fix them. We cannot help being human. We cannot help seeing problems and wanting to fix them. We cannot help being human. We cannot help seeing problems and wanting to fix them. We cannot help being human. We cannot help seeing problems and wanting to fix them. We cannot help being human. We cannot help seeing problems and wanting to fix them. We cannot help being human. We cannot help seeing problems and wanting to fix them. We cannot help being human. We cannot help seeing problems and wanting to fix them. We cannot help being human. We cannot help seeing problems We cannot help pushing boundaries. Alan made a decision. We send everything to Earth Command tonight. Every image, every translation, every piece of data we have. They need to know about this before we go back to the Galactic Council Station. The team worked through the night. They documented everything they could find. The wall contained more than just the prophecy. It had descriptions of Earth as the Viridians had observed it 60,000 years ago. They had watched human ancestors hunting. They had seen the harsh environments humans lived in. They had studied how humans adapted to changes in climate and food supply. The Viridians had been impressed and frightened. They wrote about how humans used tools in ways other species did not. How humans worked together to take down prey much larger than themselves. How humans survived in frozen wastelands and burning deserts. How humans never stopped trying to improve their situation. One passage particularly caught Alan's attention. A Viridian observer had written, "They should not survive. Their world tries to kill them constantly, yet they persist. They laugh in the face of death. They sing songs about their struggles. They tell stories of overcoming impossible odds. This is not normal behavior. This is the behavior of a species that has gone mad from fighting for survival, and yet it works. They thrive where others would perish. If they ever leave their death world, the galaxy will never be the same." As the alien sun rose again over the ruins, Alan sent the final transmission to Earth. The message would take weeks to reach home. By then, Alan and his team would be back at the Galactic Council Station, working among the very species who might have been hiding the truth about humanity's prophesied arrival. The question now was not whether humans belonged among the stars. Clearly, the Viridians had known humans would reach space eventually. The real question was whether the current galactic civilization would accept what that meant. Would they embrace the change that humanity brought, or would they try to stop it? Alan looked one last time at the ancient prophecy on the wall. The Viridians had been one of the most advanced species in galactic history. If they were afraid of humanity, what did that mean for the future? He did not have answers yet, but he knew one thing for certain. Everything was about to change.